A lot of times you'll hear these things that there's two kinds of people in the world, and there's like 7 billion kinds of people, maybe. But the thing is, you can't, in my opinion, be a prosperous painter if you continue to buy cheap brushes and throw them away at the end of the day. You can't take a bath once and be clean. Sometimes you need to get clean. And rollers need to get clean too. But there's a different technique, I suppose. A dirty thing goes in a dirty place. A messy place. Uncomfortable place. Comes out clean. The damaged thing goes into a place surrounded by its own damage. In a pool of its own damage. However, the damage on it made the world a better place. This roller took the heat for a room to get there, you know? And some of the ways the damage we take needs to we go through to make the world a better place. But to clean it, it's uncomfortable. You gotta go to a weird corner in the basement and kind of do a weird thing. But then at the end of that weird thing, strange and not natural, but very natural. You're not as good as new, but you're as useful. You feel new, but you're just useful again. Okay. A.D.D, Adderall, and Ayahuasca. I've been thinking about this video ever since I made my first video on the topic because it's so important. And I kept thinking that stars would align in a certain way that would mean it's time for this video, or that something would happen to make it the right time to make this video. And this kind of thinking often leads to neither success nor failure, but nothing. So I had a busy day, I had a stressful day, I had a day where I wasn't in line with these kinds of things. However, I'm going to make this video now. Quick disclaimer, of course, I'm no expert on anything. Everything I say is anecdotal from my life, from what I've experienced. So if you've watched my videos, you know my basic backstory. However, this part of the story I've also avoided because I've been self-conscious, or I guess nervous, to kind of come out and talk about my history with psychedelic substances and how it was beneficial. So, here we are. So, let's go back about 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. 7, 8 years. It doesn't really matter. And I was using Adderall really regularly. So, I run out of Adderall. I can't get my prescription back. I don't have insurance. I don't have money. And I'm really desperately seeking the drugs because I didn't want to quit. It was a circumstance that was thrust upon me that I no longer had access to these amphetamines that I was really addicted to. So I tried various things. I called people I knew who had Vyvanse or Adderall, and maybe a couple times I bought it from them, but it's not something they wanted to do regularly. And I even pathetically once sent a string of texts to a guy I worked at a restaurant with, like, please, very desperately, and I'm really ashamed of that. And I understand addiction because I've been there. I had no idea I was a drug addict until I was in the withdrawals of an addictive drug. I was certainly an addict. So then I went to a psychiatrist to get another prescription because I tried his Vyvanse and I liked that it went through the gastrointestinal tract, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I went to the psychiatrist and I told her I used to take drugs for attention. It's been a while since I have, and I'm curious if, I'd like to try Vyvanse maybe because Adderall was a little intense. And she asked me about scratches on my arm. And she said, how long have you been cutting yourself? And the truth was what I told her, which is I just got a kitten, which was true. And he's scratching me a lot because he's a kitten. And she didn't believe me. And she gave me a prescription for Wellbutrin, which is a SSRI antidepressant. I crumpled it up, I threw it away, I gave up. I found a clinical ad in the paper that said they were looking for adults with ADHD to test new drugs. So I thought, okay, free drugs. And looking back, I can't believe that I was willing to let people test drugs on me, that they wouldn't tell me what they are. However, you're an addict. You'll do things. So I go to this place on a weird side of town in a not so swanky office building. I go in, I meet with this nice woman, and we talk for a while, and she says, you're a great candidate for this, and we'll call you. We're not starting the trial now, we're just collecting. So I was like, oh man, I thought I was about to get some drugs today. So she didn't give me the drugs. She just took down my information. I went on my way. And in those, after that, I just was in the throes of withdrawal. I was doing all kinds of things. I've talked about it in my How I Quit Adderall video, but I didn't touch on this aspect. So all that was going on. And then within the community I was a part of, there was going to be an ayahuasca ceremony. So, I'm going, I sign up or whatever, I am planning on drinking ayahuasca. And if you don't know what ayahuasca is, you can do some research on it. I'm not an expert. It is a powerful psychedelic vine that grows in the Amazon. It activates a lot of DMT. DMT is been called the spirit molecule. God, it provides a profound experience, different for everyone. I've heard it described as telling you stories that you need to hear from beyond, using imagery from your life and your mind. It's a really powerful plant. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to spend time with it. And it had been something I had talked about for years, and it's one of these things, when the time is right for you, you may cross paths with it and you may have this experience. However, it's not something, from what I've been told, that you should, seek out in a way that's aggressive, I guess, would be what I mean. Anyways, it came my way, and I said, yeah, I think that's great. And I did all the research, as I do, and realized that I saw that there are certain interactions that should totally be avoided when drinking ayahuasca. Two really strong ones are SSRIs, which I said no to, and amphetamines. SSRIs, it can kill you. You can go into coma in interaction with it because of the MAOI inhibition. I'm not a chemist. And then similar with amphetamines, I think you go into like serotonin syndrome or something. It's really dangerous. So if you're taking those drugs and you want to participate in drinking ayahuasca, you have to do a prolonged detox prior to it. But I had already detoxed, and I was grateful for that. So, I'm still preparing. I'm doing a little diet, doing a little cleansing, preparing my mind. And about, maybe 2 weeks out before the ceremony, I'm riding my bicycle to the grocery store, and I get a phone call. And I answer the phone, and it was the woman from the trial. And she said, hey, we're ready to go on your trial. Are you ready to try these drugs? And, I felt like that was a nice fork in the road, an opportunity. Because it's kind of like you're going to take something. It's something you're going to consume. You're not going to be without that. But are you going to go the man-made amphetamines that you've been feeling like you're dying for? Or are you going to go with this magical mystery vine? And without question, I I said, no, I can't do it right now. It's not a good time. But maybe later. I thought maybe after I did the experience, then we're ready to try some drugs, of course. And so, I go into the ceremony, and I drink the medicine, as expected, and I have a lot of profound insight about my drug use. And a lot of it was that I had been digested by mankind's quest for chemical understanding, that I was a part of it, and that it can happen to anybody. But what was really clear, if I remember, was kind of what it had done to me as a person, which was stunt my ability to work hard and kind of allow me to lose focus on the importance of hard work as a grown-up person. I think it had me in a place where I could, Adderall, had me in a place where I could remain with the spirit of childless wonder, curiosity, and excitement. However, something was controlling my ability that was a part of follow-through, hard work, doing things you don't want to do, and things like that. And a lesson that came very clear that evening was that hard work is hard. And I never thought of myself as working hard because it was easy on Adderall to just produce results of any kind. And what was missing was that accomplished feeling of I wanted to quit, but I didn't. Or I kept failing. I reached a lot of challenges, but I followed through. Those kinds of sentiments with accomplishment on Adderall were absent. On Adderall, it just was like, I did this, So I was really sitting with that. And of course, there was a lot of other things that I went through when I was drinking, just visually going through. I mean, you drink it and there's beautiful tapestries of light and color that I experienced sort of to start. And I felt like that was pulling back a curtain into beyond my subconscious, divine, the many names to describe what is beyond. Knowledge that feels that it's above, but you can collaborate with, as if your life is a collaboration between your soul and your divine, the divine, something divine. But the messages that was coming to me was you should work hard. And I had all kinds of visions of life, my life, some life, other lives, birth, death, everything. But what really kept coming back was this idea of hard work. And I left with this sense of like, I want to work hard. And I had never been that. I always been kind of lazy, kind of cool, kind of like fun all the time. And this was like, hey, hard work. You've been hearing it. It's not something you're above to work hard. And I even had this vision that evening of myself on top of this structure of wood, hammering away at it. And now looking back, I know that was a pergola. I didn't know it was called a pergola. And it's funny because last week I got paid to build a pergola. But when it came to the, I knew then I was done with the drugs, that I wanted to overcome it on my own. And, it's hard to understand what do I lend? How much of that transformation or that growth is from drinking ayahuasca? How much of it is just from me settling down, going to a ceremonial ritual and just saying, I want to be better. That's a big part of it. It doesn't need to be ayahuasca. It could be therapy. It could be counseling. It could be reading a self-help book. It could be something you stumble upon while journaling. I think the most powerful substance or the most powerful tool when it comes to healing addiction, self-improvement, self-growth, is the intention to do so. However you want to manifest that intention is unique to you. But leaving then, I was pretty solid that I wasn't going to do Adderall. Of course, I did consume it a few times after that, but both of those occurrences resulted in personal repulsion, anger, anxiety, and disappointment. So it was pretty much, my addiction was healed. And of course I still felt what I was feeling before when I left. It wasn't that like afterwards I went home and I wasn't thinking about how if I was on Adderall I'd be more productive. But I was saying this is hard and okay. What are the steps I can take? Or what, not to make this easier, but what are the steps I can take to make myself capable of doing hard things? Even if the hard thing is getting out of bed and getting dressed. Because in amphetamine withdrawal, getting out of bed and getting dressed is hard. So I joined a Kung Fu dojo because another thing I thought about during that experience is that I've had 3 broken legs. And there's kind of, I guess I thought that, let's say you're a runner and you break your leg. Your progression as a runner during your healing, it declines. No, it doesn't stay the same. If you're going up as a runner and you break your leg, you don't stay here as time goes on and then keep climbing after your healing. It goes down. So you have 8-year-old me. Here I take Adderall. Adderall does all my learning on how to focus and how to work hard, you see? So then I stopped taking Adderall. My actual ability to focus is less than an 8-year-old. I'm sure it's different. That's a bad comparison. Forgive me. But the point is that I felt like an 8-year-old that needed to learn some discipline and focus. And I thought about the idea that I am also my own parent, that I'm taking care of myself. This is my responsibility. Not anybody else's, not my mommy or daddy's. I'm mine now. So I must treat myself as that child. I must be a good parent to myself that's taking care of yourself. And I think partially because of my overwhelming drug use, this simple and obvious lesson had been set aside. And I thought about what you do with an 8-year-old who has a lot of energy, who can't focus. And I thought that maybe, my parents are awesome. And one of the parts that made them awesome was that I was not very disciplined. And although as a child I loved that, I think that may have contributed to my ADD-like behavior and what made me someone who had a hard time focusing. So back to it, I thought, what would I do if I was my parent, the responsible adult here, with myself, as an 8-year-old? So I joined a Kung Fu dojo. And it was great. I loved it so much. And on my first day there, they kind of keep you aside with one teacher who's giving you the runaround of how things go at the dojo, the warm-ups, the exercises, what you're learning. And he turns to me and he tells me, what you're learning here, this fighting style, it's called wushu. Kung Fu, directly translated, means hard work. So you can see a guy in the kitchen cutting carrots. If he's doing it with kung fu, it's kung fu. And it's like, wow, I wanted to work hard. I wanted hard work. And now 2-3 times a week I go to a place that's called hard work. And, that is where I learned how to focus. And I'm constantly learning how to focus. I'm constantly slipping up. I'm constantly forgetting how to focus. It's a lifetime endeavor. There's nothing to click. When the brush is clean, it's clean. I'm going to use it again. It's going to be dirty again. I'm going to clean the brush again. But I developed systems and techniques to clean my brush. And maybe I learned that because I've not cleaned my brush before, and I've had to throw away my brushes, and it's embarrassing. So I've been embarrassed with the way I've lived my life before. But I move on. You can just get a new brush sometimes. It costs a little bit of your time and money, but you can get a new brush. And you take care of that brush. That brush is your life. And it'll stay clean if you never get out there and change the colors of walls. But you can change the colors of walls if you know how to come home and clean your brush. And cleaning your brush isn't drinking ayahuasca. Cleaning your brush is cleaning your brush. And if it was to continue this metaphor and say, what is cleaning your brush? It's just taking stock of what's going on. How you're feeling and how you're doing and what you can do to do better. Journaling, yoga, all these kinds of practices, they have a purpose. And they're not just magic either. Nothing is just magic, but you. You are magic. And if you figure out how to interact with it, then things can be magical. But if you just kind of go through the motions and you're not actually paying attention, then it's still probably better than not. But when you really are there, you can see what's going on. So with A.D.D, Adderall, and Ayahuasca, they all start with the letter A. They've all been a big part of my life. I think that at sometimes I've thought that in order to truly depart from a toxic substance, I had to interact with a holy substance or something like this. And that might be true. It might not be. I don't think I needed to do it, but I did. That's the life I've had. That's the path I've been told. And it healed, It helped heal me. I healed me with the assistance. And I'm not trying to be arrogant that I did all this work, but it's a lot of hard work, and I'm proud of myself. And I have nothing to show for it, except that I don't take amphetamines. And for someone who took amphetamines for majority of their life, that's an accomplishment. And I think it's okay to get help. I think if I had to quit amphetamines again, I would find a professional who I trusted, who would do it right, and to help me get off the drugs, because they're so hard to get off. And if you're trying to get off those drugs, I'm not telling you to find ayahuasca, but I'm telling you that you have to. I think the lessons I experienced that I've expressed in this video can help you. Be your own parent. Take care of yourself. How would you do it? How would you work hard? Do you have a strategy? Write it down. What do you actually want to do? Because a big part of my healing too was quitting all the jobs I had. Those were Adderall, Russell. And actual Russell didn't like those jobs. He didn't like some people. He didn't like some activities. There were things off Adderall that I just had to bury. I had to mourn myself a little bit, a certain part of my personality that I really liked, and that a lot of people I knew really liked. He died. And that was really sad. And I mourned. And I grieved. And I moved on. Because if I continued that way, maybe the actual physical form of me would die too. So I had to save this life. I threw away the brush. I got a new one, and I take good care of it.